Is one fantasy football legend about to fall off the cliff? What dynamic running back might be coming back with a vengeance this season? And should you be drafting a talented quarterback with few talented pass catchers to throw to? Plus, the 24-time FFPC and current KFFSC Main Event champion Dan Flamholtz joins us tonight, too. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your HSFF Hour Extra Reps starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than neither lesser.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. This is the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour Extra Reps presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to talk about the lesser talked about pass catcher in one potent AFC South offense and 24-time FFPC and current and defending KFFSC Main Event champion Dan Flamholtz is going to drop in as well. If you want to connect with us on X, please do so at HSFF Hour. I'm at Eric Balkman, and check out Ferrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com, KFFSC official on the X. Of course, that is not only should you check it out, you should be playing in it against guys like me and Dan. We have a fun time there. Post on our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/HSFF Hour. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, that is the best place to send them to. We try to get to everything that we can every single week on the two HSFF Hour shows that we have. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce, and of course our producer and mutual friend Rob. Bring in the co-host with the most, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ferrell Elliott, hanging out with us once again tonight. So good to have you, Ferrell. What's this summer been like? Have you been having a good summer so far?
Well, buddy, summer just started like 3 days ago.
So it's been going. May is summer. May is summer.
You mean like late spring? Yeah, it's been promising. It's been good. I haven't got since the NFL draft. I have not been able to draft as much as I want to. We have sort of here we are approaching the first week of June. We have UFL football championships beginning and Canadian Football League champion season beginning, and all of that is colliding, and it's a very, very busy time for football. And why I love everything about football, there's nothing I would rather do, Balky, than talk football with you.
And who better to bring in tonight to join in the football conversation than one Hammer, the guy who is holding the belt, who is going to be presented with the trophy at the KFFSC and the third weekend of the KFFSC this August. He won the KFFSC main event this year to go along with his 24 FFPC titles. Please welcome on Mr. Dan Flamholtz. It has been, Dan, I checked this before, just over 2 years ago, you made your debut on this show. Now we're not only having you back this week for extra reps, but when we get into August, you'll be making an appearance again to talk about Kentucky. Hello, good evening, and welcome.
Hey, guys. Thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure to speak fantasy football with you guys.
The story of you winning KFFSC is something you shared with me when we were at Caesars in February for the big game party and the big game drafting, obviously. We're going to have you share it again in August. But for everybody watching tonight, what was winning that like for you when you were watching those Week 17 games?
Oh, it was amazing. It really started on that Sunday night game with the Bears and 49ers. I don't know if you guys remember this, but DJ Moore came down with an illness on that Sunday morning. And as a result of that report, I took DJ Moore out of my lineup and I replaced him with Luther Burden. And I happened to have both players on my roster. And that was pretty much the move that put me into first place on that Sunday night. And, I think Burden scored 27 fantasy points that evening. And, the next day, Ferrell gives me a call, tries to jinx my championship because he's telling me that statistically how it's almost impossible for me to lose the first place finish and things of that nature.
Well,
and,
I am a statistical genius with numbers.
I asked Ferrell very politely to, maybe call me back.
I believe you hung up on me is what it was. I sit here talking with and then, it was just, this is all we heard.
But so I, watching that game, I believe it was Lee Oldenburg that had Bijan Robinson. And I think he was maybe in 7th or 8th place at that particular time. And in the middle of the third quarter of that game, Lee passed me. And then, Nakua caught a couple of more passes late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter. And finally, he scored that touchdown. And again, during that game, Puka Nakua caught a touchdown earlier but it was brought back because of a penalty. He also caught another long pass earlier in the game, and that same offensive lineman got called for a holding penalty. So, I'm emotionally going crazy. My wife, who never watches football, is watching the game with me. Kelly was
your good luck charm, Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. Kelly was home that night as well because it was my wife's birthday on December 31st, New Year's Eve. That last drive of the game, it was a lot of fun, but it was also stressful because here I am cheering for Nakua. Kelly and my wife Ling are cheering for Nakua. And then that last drive, Nakua caught a ball on the sideline that they ruled incomplete. And then, I think it was a challenge or the play was being reviewed. And for the first 59 minutes and 45 seconds of the game, I'm cheering for Nakua to catch every pass and score a lot of points, obviously. And now here I am for the last 15 seconds of the game trying to explain to my wife and Kelly why I do not want Puka Nakua to have that catch because it would extend the game potentially because the Rams would be in field goal range.
Right.
And if the Rams were in field goal range, they kick they get the 3 points, the game goes into overtime. And with the game that Bijan Robinson was having, who would have known what would have happened, right?
It was an incredible finish.
The passcode now and the phrase known in the Hammers household is timing is everything, Balky.
Yeah, it is.
Timing is everything. That's the Hammer.
I was sweating out that Nakua. I was going against him in a league, a dynasty league, Dan, and I was rooting against him the whole game because I did not want him doing anything. And I was with you on that last one. I'm like, geez, don't give him this catch. Just end the game. This is everything. It's fine right now. Nakua ends up that game 5 for 47 and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson went absolutely crazy. 195 yards on the ground plus a touchdown. He also caught an additional 5 passes for 34 yards. And another touchdown. So it was a great, it was a fantastic, exciting finish that worked out good for some people, maybe not great for other people. But the decision you made to sit DJ Moore, who had 1 catch for 7 yards the previous night, Sunday Night Football, Bears and Niners, was targeted 4 times, only caught 1 of them for 7 yards, and your Luther Burden 8 for 138 and 1 touchdown.
Beautiful.
And the rest they say is history.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Congratulations, Dan. And fellas, I looked at that group of the top 5 finishers and the 3 of you that were chasing it in the very last few minutes of that game. And, what I was really pleased about is all of you would have made great champions of the league. But it was your year. It was your year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lee was right there.
Tim Allen was up there with you.
Stuart Keene. I think Stuart Keene finished 4th.
It's a great group.
It's on the show a couple of weeks ago too. It's a lot of fun. And congratulations, Dan. We'll give you more props and more flowers coming up in August when we have you on. We're
not even going to show you the trophy tonight. It's sitting right over here.
You're not going to show it?
No, he's not seeing it. He's got to come back in August.
Right,
well, I'll see it in August.
Yeah, you'll see it in August.
Absolutely. And you'll take it home. Look at it all you want.
Where I want to start off is sort of where we left off on Wednesday night, and that's with Jacksonville.
Okay.
Dan, Ferrell and I were talking about Parker Washington, but I definitely want to get your thoughts on what we should be doing with drafts with him. Grant Udinsky, who is the new OC, I don't even think he's the new OC. I think he was the OC last year as well for Jacksonville, says Washington is, quote, capable of what he did at the end of the season last year and even more than that. This was published on the Jaguars website on Wednesday. He was asked about his expectations for Washington, and he says he thinks really, really highly of Washington. 19 catches, 347 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games of the season. Ferrell mentioned it on Wednesday, 32 catches in the month of December. That led all Jaguars receivers over that span. John Shipley, who covers the Jaguars, I believe for Sports Illustrated, don't quote me on that, said he looked like, quote, arguably the best player on the field at OTAs on Wednesday, on Tuesday, beg your pardon. And certainly I know plenty of high-stakes players, good ones that have won a lot of money, that are definitely high on Parker Washington as a mid-7th round pick. Now I'm going to ask another really good high-stakes player who has also won a lot of money if he's on board with Parker Washington in the mid-7th. And I also want you to weigh in, Dan, where you think Washington will be going once drafting season ends in early September. How high up you think high-stakes drafters will be taking him?
Yeah, well, thanks for the kind words, Balky. And Parker Washington in my dynasty leagues is one of the most frequently owned wide receivers that I have. And I'm also targeting him in the Big Gorilla drafts. Anywhere, I believe he's been going in round 6 through 8. I know you mentioned round 7, but I've seen him go as early as round 6 in some of the drafts that I've participated in.
Sorry, just to interrupt you real quick, Dan. I'm actually looking at Mojo right now. He's gone as high as the 5'11" over the last 5 minutes. So he's even getting up into the late 5th to your point. Please keep going.
Yeah, and I've been drafting him in round 6. I think there's good value there. I think there's a lot of upside with Washington because I think at this time next year, we'll be talking about Parker Washington as a 3rd or 2nd round pick. Mm-hmm. And I think right now you're getting him at a 6th round value. Sometimes he's lasting till the 8th round. I think he's their number 1 wide receiver. I think he proved that towards the end of last year. I think he has developed a lot of trust with Trevor Lawrence. And also, if you think about that offensive system and how the slot receivers have been utilized, going back to Cohen's days at Kentucky when he had Wan'Dale Robinson, and then 2 years ago with Chris Godwin occupying that slot position. Remember, before Chris Godwin got hurt 2 years ago, he was the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. He was leading the NFL in receptions. And if Parker Washington continues to play that role, there's no reason why he can't push for 90 to 100 catches this season.
He's got the quarterback to sling it and get the ball there. Our guest on Wednesday night, the G-Man, who we're going to talk into coming to Kentucky and just be another Californian that you could beat, Dan. But when we look at the conversation we had last Wednesday, he's completely out on Brian Thomas Jr. Your thoughts about this highly anticipated? He was the darling of drafters last year. Parker Washington this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not completely out on Thomas, but he has to slide a little bit in drafts for me to consider him. I would put Washington and Myers ahead of him. I would put maybe Thomas. I would start considering him maybe in round 8 or 9. Most people probably disagree with me because I think he's probably going in round 7 or 8. So I probably won't end up with a lot of shares of Thomas, but he is talented. But for whatever reason, him and Trevor Lawrence just weren't on the same page. I think Thomas also had a lot of drops. And one thing that you guys got to think about and remember, going back to the 2024 season, Thomas did a lot of his had a lot of his production with Mac Jones as his quarterback, not necessarily Trevor Lawrence. So I don't know. It just seems that Thomas isn't Lawrence's guy. It seems like he favors Washington and to a certain degree, Myers and Brenton Strange. There's a lot of mouths to feed there in the Jacksonville passing game, and I'm fairly confident Washington will get his share. I do think there's some question about Myers and Thomas, but if I was to rank them, I would go Washington 1, Myers 2, Thomas 3 out of the
as far as fantasy production. Those are your 3 guys. I think you've said some very interesting things there, and Balky, chime in whenever you're ready. But I think you talked eloquently about the coach and what he did at previous locations, especially at Tampa with Godwin. I think about what he did with all those receivers there. And I think in Thomas, you've got an excellent field stretcher. And I agree with you. Parker will eclipse him in number of receptions and possibly touchdowns, but not average per yard. I think this player comes back and is definitely a deep threat. And what you said about chemistry, that's the easiest thing to fix through repetition. You can't fix it in the season. If the quarterback and the receiver aren't clicking, there's no time to fix it. But in the spring and in the training camps and the OTAs that they're going through now, you can fix that. And that's what gives me great hope. The athleticism, the maturity of the quarterback, and all these great tools, and the OC. I just see a lot of things happening here that are going to be great.
So according to Fantasy Mojo, at Fantasy Mojo on X, fantasymojo.com, get a subscription to Fantasy Mojo if you're playing in the FFPC. It is extremely helpful. Anytime we cite ADP on the show, it's always through his website. 704 is where Washington's going. Washington. That's where he's going right now. And it wasn't that I'm old enough to remember when Thomas was being selected ahead of Parker Washington in drafts this year. And now they have flipped. Washington is now the first guy off the board. BTJ is at 709, and then you're looking at 904 for Jacoby Myers right now. The other thing that I think we've kind of said it without saying it in regards to Thomas, you think about not only the Mac Jones stuff, where that was never a big deal to me, Dan, because I thought, well, if he could do this with Mac Jones, I mean, he's going to be able to do it with Trevor Lawrence, but that's not always the case. And it certainly wasn't the case. The other thing to think about too is last year, I mean, how many times was he the sacrificial X, just running wind sprints and trying to field flip with these big plays? It wasn't a target earning opportunity for him, and they weren't scheming him open. What else did they do? They traded for Myers and then signed him immediately to that extension. I listened to Trevor Lawrence talk about his receivers in the offseason, and while he was very talked about him gave much more faint praise to Brian Thomas when he was gushing all over Parker Washington. So I think if we read between the lines here, that maybe I'm the one who's underestimating Washington, and you guys are right, and that he is going to go up in ADP quite a bit as we get closer and closer to draft season. But I think this Jacksonville offense is going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be fun to draft. And with that, I want to get into our first email. As long as we're talking Jacksonville, Dan, let's go to Rich in Cincinnati to talk about Brenton Strange. He writes, "How's it going, Dan? With all those receivers in Jacksonville, is Brenton Strange still worth drafting at the 1108 in the Big Gorilla?" That is Rich in Cincinnati. Thank you so much, Rich. I can also tell you, Dan, when we consider other tight ends going around that same spot where Strange is going, He is going essentially right after Chigakonkwo and Juwan Johnson. He is going right before TJ Hawkinson and Hunter Henry. I'm not going to cloud your answer here at all. I want to get just your honest opinion on whether that is a good investment in the 1108 in Brenton Strange and the Big Gorilla this year.
I think for round 11 it is. I think Strange has a safe floor. I do think his upside when compared to Okonkwo is somewhat limited. I think Okonkwo has a little bit more upside just because there's less target competition for Okonkwo, right, in Washington versus, the established wide receivers in Jacksonville. Plus, I also think Jacksonville may utilize the running backs a little bit more in the passing game this year as well. But I do like Strange. I think he's a decent value in round 11. I do prefer Okonkwo to Strange simply because in these larger tournaments, I prefer to go after the higher upside players. And in my opinion, Okonkwo has more upside, especially if Daniels stays healthy. If you remember 2 years ago, Daniels had a great rapport with Zach Ertz, especially in the red zone. And Zach Ertz put up some really nice numbers in 2024. And I think Okonkwo, with his athleticism, could surpass that.
Let me, Balky, can we go to the Mojo and get the next 4 tight ends after Strange?
Hawkinson, Henry, Dalton Schultz, and then Eli Stowers.
See, Stowers, there's a guy that the Hammer likes because he has unlimited ceiling, and then you take our Houston Schultz, who was in the top 5 of catches of tight ends last year, and I don't see that changing very much. And then you stack on Strange back-to-back seasons of 40 catches, pushing, trying to get to 50, but not gaining a lot of yards. I don't see it. I think I'd rather wait around and grab 3 of those other guys, one of those other 3.
I'll just say this. And Ferrell, I know we played this game. I can't remember with who on the show a few weeks back when we were talking about Dalton Schultz and how many catches he had.
Mm-hmm.
The top 5 tight ends right now by ADP in FFPC Big Gorilla. This is who FFPC players are taking. This is the order they're taking them in. Bowers, McBride, Loveland, Warren, Fannin. Those were the top 5 receivers by ADP currently right now in the
makes sense.
Now, if we look at the top 5 tight ends from last year as far as catches, we just look at catches. We're not
big deal in the FFPC.
Yeah, 1.5 points. This is huge. If we look at the top 5, it is not representative at all with who is going in order in ADP for tight ends this year. McBride, obviously, first in catches last year. Then we have Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, the aforementioned Dalton Schultz, and the aforementioned Hunter Henry. Yeah. Those are the top 5 leaders at the tight end position in catches last year. And, we just said this. Kyle Pitts is going as a 5th-round pick, so he's still up there. But he's going as tight end 6. Then you have Ferguson, tight end 13. Hunter Henry, tight end 22. And Dalton Schultz, tight end 23. Tank Dell is going to help that offense.
And you don't want to draft. You don't want to draft last year's team.
No, you don't. But at the same
time, yeah.
Yeah, that seems awfully low. To Ferrell's point, Hunter Henry and Dalton Schultz probably should be going higher based on their consistency year to year. I do think that some people are shying away from Hunter Henry because of the rumors that A.J. Brown, right, might get traded there. They got Romeo Doubs. And, they also drafted Eli Raritan in the 3rd round. And Hunter Henry's getting a little bit older. So I think people are shying away from Henry a little bit because there's only one football to go around, right? And then I think in Dalton Schultz's case, it's just not a sexy name, right? I mean, he's consistent, but people tend to look for upside, right? And with Schultz, it's one of those deals where you know what you're going to get kind of thing. And, the production is good, but people like to hit home runs. And, being good isn't always something that people are looking for, right?
In the beloved FFPC dual flex. And Dalton Schultz in what round, Balky? 12?
13.
13th round. I will go ahead and take Dalton Schultz, and I'll put him in the flex, and I'll take those 70 catches, multiply them by 1.5, call them 105, and let him replace any wide receiver in the 13th round that's not going to catch 105 catches.
Yeah. And then if he catches 70 balls again, from a tight end position, you're gaining 6 rounds of upside. If he's going,
I'll be happy with 60
balls, performing like a 6-rounder.
I'll be happy with 60. And we mentioned Ferguson. Ferguson not only at Dallas, which everything there is to know about Dallas. Hammer. Ferguson not only had a great pass catching year, but he found the end zone impressively last year. After I think getting shut out of the end zone the prior year. So.
Yeah. Ferguson, I like Ferguson too. He tailed off a little bit towards the end of last season. He got off to a fantastic start the first half of the season. Then his production slowed down a little bit, but overall, he's still a solid tight end.
And the healthy Bowers will catch more than all of them.
Yeah, and so obviously I'm skewing it a little bit. Stats don't lie, but statisticians do. Bowers is going to have a better season. Loveland didn't really come on till the end of last season. Warren looked awesome until Daniel Jones got hurt. And then Fannin was another guy that sort of came on later on. So there is, and you're right with the Schultz stuff. I mean, he's not fun to draft. He's fun to put in your lineup and see him catch 8 balls in a game. Yeah. That's fun. But yeah, it does nothing. He does not, Dalton Schultz does not get any kind of dopamine release from me. Right. I'm drafting him. And maybe that's what we're looking for. I don't know.
Right. But to Ferrell's point, if he's going in round 12, well, like he is,
yeah.
If he has the same season as he did last year, this year, then, inherently you're getting upside because you're drafting a player that's going to produce 6th round, 5th round value in round 12.
And I like them better as a team when you figure out their new running back. I'm very stoked to see the team elevate around this new running back.
Going back to 2020, Dalton Schultz, as far as catches go, 63, 78, 57, 59, 53, 82. His worst season was 53. And he's not a big touchdown scorer. He had 8 in 2021 with the Cowboys, failed to notch more than 5 every other year. Not that I want to turn this into the Dalton Schultz show, but in a couple of weeks, we're going to look back at this ADP, Ferrell, and we're going to see how much the three of us moved it tonight.
Oh, wait till the pros. Wait till the pros come on and never mention his name. And you can put him with Pittman, understated duo.
Dalton Schultz, the Michael Pittman of tight end.
We don't want those 70 catches from our tight end, and we sure don't want 90 catches from our receiver. No way. We don't want those 2 guys.
The Ferrell Elliott All-Star team is forming right in front of the area.
I think we'd have to put Purdy in there as well.
Purdy can be in there, and we need a quarterback. And I'm down with Purdy for sure.
Yes.
Craig in Norcross, Georgia writes in, has Davante Adams lost a step, or is he still worth his 5'11" Big Gorilla ADP? Thank you, and thank you, Craig, in Norcross, Georgia. Kind of a polarizing player. Dan, I'll let you weigh in on this. Adams last year, his performance was propped up significantly by scoring a lot of touchdowns, which he's been able to do over the course of his career. But it did appear to some people, and not all people, I've heard smart people talk about he looked fantastic even when he wasn't scoring touchdowns. He dealt with that hamstring issue, I know, during the season. But now he gets a year, or he gets to come back another year older. His quarterback's another year older. Obviously, it's a good thing that they have a rapport, but they are a little bit more prone to injury the older you get. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a lot bit. I don't know. But Dan, wide receiver 26 at the 5'11" right now. To answer Craig's question, has he lost a step, Or you can also answer it, yes, he's lost a step, and he's still worth a 5'11" a Big Gorilla too.
I'm not sure if he lost a step, but the circumstances have changed for him a little bit. It seems like McVay, they're drafting a lot of tight ends, and I think it may have been your last show, Eric, where you mentioned the 13 personnel, right? So with that 13 personnel group, a wide receiver has to come off the field, and I wonder if that's going to be Davante Adams as he's getting a little bit older. Maybe he's not going to run as many routes per game during the regular season. Maybe they try to conserve him a little bit while utilizing that 13 personnel. The other thing that I'm a little bit concerned about with Adams is you mentioned the 14 touchdowns, but 9 of them were within the 5-yard line. So I think the chances of that happening again, in which he'll catch 9 touchdowns on passes that Stafford threw within the 5-yard line, is probably slim to none. So I think there's probably going to be some touchdown regression with Adams. That coupled with the 13 personnel groupings, he's going, like you mentioned, late round 5. And I think the other wide receivers around him include guys like Mike Evans, Christian Watson, Rome Odunze, and Jamison Williams. And I think I would rather take Evans. I think I'd rather have Watson for sure and Odunze over Adams this year. The only one that I think I would take Adams over would be Jamison Williams. As a personal preference, I think Williams is best for best ball because of his fluctuations week to week. But I like those other 3 receivers more than Adams going in that same range of the draft. So for me to draft Adams, it would probably have to be more in the latter part of the 6th round, early 7th round for him to be on my roster.
Regarding the 13 personnel, historically what we saw last year was Nacua was the one who was coming off the field more and Adams was out there. But you do bring up a good point, Dan, that maybe that is going to be more balanced this year. To save the wear and tear on Adams. And certainly, the way Nacua plays, you don't want him going all crazy, out there throwing his body around when he doesn't have to. So maybe there's something to be said for maybe Adams and Nacua split that more. I don't know.
And Eric, that's another good point because trust me, that last Monday night game when I watched Puka Nacua run off the field that many times, that was driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And obviously, if you're a defense and you see Nacua on the field for a play, you kind of know how to roll your coverage. It's cat and mouse for that. I am with you on Watson and Odunze over Adams this year. I think you might have sold. I was going to say Williams over Adams as well, but I think you might have sold me on managed leagues. I think you probably want to have Adams over Williams. Ferrell, Davante Adams in the late 5th round. How much business are you going to be doing with that ADP?
You guys so eloquently broke it down that I think I will follow your suggestion.
Okay.
He's going to have to. I'm going to make all my teams look younger, except at certain positions like tight end. So and certain positions like maybe quarterback. I'm excited about some of the young quarterbacks, but let's. I think there's a lot of rising talent in this league. And we've talked about Parker Washington. We've talked about Colston Loveland. We want to be as fortunate as Dan is to be around Thanksgiving having players that are elevating their game. And so when you go younger and go talented, that's what you get. And I think in that spot, I'm going to look to find a younger player, even if I have to elevate Parker Washington to a 5th round pick to get him.
The day before Christmas, 2026, Davante Adams turns 34 years old.
I love it.
Certainly significantly older than Watson, Williams, and Odunze. Moving on to, and I always say it's a young man's game. I mean, how often have I said that on the show? This is a young man's game. Mike in Cleburne, Texas. You know where Cleburne is, Dan?
I believe it's south of Dallas. I think it's in the DFW area.
Yep. Okay, all right. So this guy's coming from your neck of the woods, your nape of the way, as Chevy Chase would say. How much is the new offensive coordinator in Philly going to affect Saquon Barkley's 2026 campaign? That is Mark in Cleburne, Texas. We appreciate it, Mark. I think, well, Ferrell, just refresh my memory on this. When we talked about this last month, or maybe it was 2 months ago, and I thought you were pretty bullish on Saquon Barkley this year, right?
I remain bullish on Saquon Barkley. I think anyone who got hired to coach on the offense at the Philadelphia Eagles during the interview process, if he said we're not going to feature Saquon Barkley, his ass would not have been hired. No. So I believe that we can pretty much understand that Barkley is in store for a mighty fine season. And don't compare Barkley to his stellar season from 2024. Compare him to the rest of the running back group, because he'll still knock down all of them.
Yeah.
Dan, it was last year at this time, obviously. Barkley was coming off that massive 2,000 or whatever it was. It was close to 2,000 yards, right? He didn't hit 2,000 yards. I thought it was like 1,900 something. Okay, anyway, it was awesome. He gets elevated to the 3rd overall pick by ADP in both the FFPC and the KFFSC last year. Underwhelms, maybe not to his own fault. Maybe there's some offensive line issues. There definitely was some offensive coordinator issues. And now he is running back 10 at the 206. Dan, this is a price we should be willing to pay. Given what we were willing to pay in 2025, we're getting a round and a half discount, and it's an expensive round and a half discount because it's the top 2 rounds of the draft. You tell me about Barkley.
No, I agree with you guys. I think if you could get him in the mid to late 2nd round, that's great value, and there's definitely room for upside. Back to his 2025 season, his yards before contact was right around 3.8. Last year, it was down to like 2.3, which is slightly below league average. So he was number 1 in 2024, and then he was slightly below league average last year. And I don't believe that's due to a decline in his ability. I think it's a matter of circumstances in which that offense overall was pretty much out of sync throughout the season. And also, if you take a look at their injuries that they had on the offensive line, Juergens had a ruptured disc. Johnson had a Lisfranc injury. Mailata missed games due to a hamstring issue. And then the guard also missed games due to ankle and knee injury. I think Landon Dickerson is his name, right? So basically 4 of their 5 starters at some point during the season were missing games, right? So, I think the fantasy community a little bit is down on Barkley simply because he didn't fulfill the expectations of his season, the season that he had in 2024. But I think there's a little bit of an overreaction, which is a good thing for drafters that are able to get him in the mid to late 2nd round, because I don't think he's going to return necessarily to, being a top 3 overall player, but certainly being a mid to late round type of play, mid to late 1st round type of player is certainly in the range of outcomes this year, especially with Sean Mannion taking over as offensive coordinator and bringing that zone run blocking scheme to Philadelphia.
He's going to catch guys 40 to 45 balls in that offense as well, and you can't ignore that. And he, when he catches it, he always seems to end up with a couple touchdowns. So you add that to carrying the ball 300 times. I'll take a running back carries the ball 300 times. And with this talent, with this skill set, I'll take him wherever I can get him. And if I remember very early on in drafting in the Big Gorilla, I was in there with some of our dear friends that we know from fantasy football, and I drafted him at the 2nd or 3rd pick of the 2nd round. They all raised hell. They all just said, and I said, well, guys, go right ahead. Big deal.
Right. And even with a year that Barkley had where the perception is that maybe he underwhelmed a little bit, he still had over 1,400 total yards, 9 touchdowns, and 37 receptions. So that's still low-end RB1 territory. It's just not, top 2 or 3 running back territory.
Two Packers said it right. Two Packers said it right. Our beloved Ron Meyer. If you draft to ADP, you'll draft an average team.
Yep.
I mean, even Oinker knows that. Even Oinker.
The Barkley did hit, by the way, 2,005 yards in 2024. So he did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Overall or rushing yards?
That was rushing yards.
Because he carried the ball, 350 times?
345.
Wow.
345, yeah. And then last year, 280 carries. And Dan, you mentioned it too, the perception that he underwhelmed. Well, why do we have the perception? Because we as fantasy players, we pumped up his ADP too much. So obviously, 1,140 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, another 2 through the air, another 37 catches. Yeah, I mean, if we're picking him at the end of the first round as opposed to the beginning, I don't think a whole lot of people are complaining about Barkley, but that's what happened. There was one more thing I was going to say about Barkley, and it was, I know. Just saw this. So they're running the McVay-style offense. Sean Mannion's going to run a Sean McVay-style offense in Philly. Hurts is going to be under center more. And what did Saquon Barkley do? He reached out and he called and talked to one Todd Gurley about playing in the Sean McVay offense. So clearly he's buckling up. I think it's going to be a Barkley revenge season. And to Dan's point, you get him in the mid-second, you get him in the late second, you are playing fantasy football right. Moving on. One more email here tonight, guys. And we go to Kurt in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Cambridge? Anyway. Hey, Dan, are you going to be in the Malik Willis business this season? Thanks so much. That is Kurt. We'll just say in Massachusetts. I have been saying that I will not draft Willis as my starter, but I have no problems having him as my backup quarterback this year. I don't think that's shocking or whatever. But Dan, there is a certain upside here with Willis, and he goes in a part of the draft where I am drafting for upside. It's kismet. It's a match made in heaven. You're drafting for a home run. Yeah, this guy could be a strikeout, but he could be a home run as well. That's the way I look at it. How are you looking at Malik Willis?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of upside, and he's basically free going in round 16 in drafts. So I know it's a small sample size, but if you look at what he did the last 2 games, when he came into that overtime loss against Chicago and that last game that he played against Baltimore, he was fantastic. His QB rating was 145. He completed more than 80% of his passes, and he accounted for 4 touchdowns, 2 of them being rushing. And when you rush for touchdowns in our scoring system at the FFPC as well as the KFFSC, right, rushing touchdowns, you get the benefit of getting 2 extra points each, right? Yeah. With the rushing scores. So if you rush for 2, you get it's like throwing an extra passing touchdown. Mm-hmm. So I think just his rushing alone provides upside. So let's say he rushes, for 10 to 12 touchdowns, and he throws for another 15 touchdowns, which is absolutely reasonable for a starting quarterback over a 17-game schedule. Now you're talking about a quarterback that you could draft in round 16 that's really accounting for almost like 30 passing touchdowns. Tough to beat that in round 16. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, you drop him and you pick someone else up. You got him for free.
Malik Willis is going behind, ironically, Jordan Love, who I also think is going too low. Maybe that's my Packer fandom, but I think that Love should be higher, especially with this Jacobs stuff going on. He should be higher. Mayfield, Shook, and then you get into that glut I mentioned on Wednesday, Goff, Murray, Nick, Stafford, Purdy, Mahomes. So there is something to be said for Malik Willis in the 16th round, and the risk-reward ratio is out of this world on that.
You went from Willis up. Can you go from Willis down?
Sure. These are the guys going after Malik Willis. Bryce Young, Daniel Jones, who I think is going to move up ahead of Willis here over the next week or two. Then after Daniel Jones, Cam Ward, C.J. Stroud, Sam Darnold after that.
You guys are getting close to making me somewhat of a believer, and I think it goes to just to say everybody thinks this is a young quarterback. He's 27, maybe pushing 28 years old, I think. It's his time to do it now. So yeah, okay. You guys just sold me on it.
Willis.
There's value all over the draft board with the quarterback position. The quarterback that won the MVP last year is going in round 12.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So if you think of it in those terms, we talked about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is a quarterback that I believe he was very close to Josh Allen on being number 1 or number 2 on average points per game started. Right now, he missed some time last year, but he was up there in points per game. And Brock Purdy is also, I believe, going in round 12 or round 13. Mahomes is going in round 11. I mean, it's just amazing how much value and potential upside there is at the quarterback position. Dak Prescott, another one that's going in round 10.
Just more reasons to wait on quarterback again this year, certainly. Malik Willis, by the way, guys, on Memorial Day, he turned 27 years old. So this is his age 27 season. One of the other things I'll bring up about Willis, too, in my former life as a local sports talk radio show host in Northeast Wisconsin, I'd have Packers guests come on from time to time. And Peter Bukowski, who covers the Packers for The Leap, and he does the Locked On Packers podcast as well. He mentioned if you look back at these spot starts that Willis has had to make in place of Jordan Love, and not even spot starts, but coming into a game for Love where he plays the majority of the game. If you look back to like 2024, the Colts, the Jaguars, Matt LaFleur was kind of hiding Malik Willis as much as you can hide a quarterback in your offensive attack, right? And then, you get to these Chicago and Baltimore games that you had mentioned last year, you see a marked change in the plan of attack because he saw how Chicago and Baltimore were trying to defend Willis. And he's like, okay, if you guys want to make Malik Willis beat you, he's good enough to beat you. And that's the game plan I'm going to put. And then lo and behold, granted, the Packers didn't win either of those games, but it wasn't because of Willis. Willis had phenomenal games against the Bears and the Ravens, and I think that is what I cling to, and knowing that it was a small sample size, but you see the evolution of where he was at the start of the 2024 season, making those spot starts to the end of the 2025 season. He just looked like a completely different quarterback, and that's what has me so excited. You broke it down mathematically, Dan, why we need to be in business with Willis in the 16th. And by the way, if you don't agree on this, there's going to be plenty other quarterbacks that you could take at that spot that I could see. Yeah, that's probably a good pick as well because quarterback's deep this year, Ferrell.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is. And I think we've solved the quarterback situation. Anybody listening to this show looks like a league winner.
Dan, there's nothing to solve, right? Just take any one of them. Don't take the early ones, and you got it.
Now, there is one thing I do want to say about Malik Willis, though, is let's hope he continues to throw a football better than he does a baseball. Right?
He was missing a lot of wide receivers in OTAs this week. I heard that report that he wasn't hooking up, which, I mean, it's OTAs or whatever. But, yeah, there is a reason that Malik Willis plays football.
Did you see that first pitch?
That was the Marlins, right? Where he's throwing pitch before a Marlins game. Yeah, that was 50 Cent awful. That was one of the worst first pitches I've ever seen in my life.
A pop-up question on a Dolphin sleeper.
Yeah.
For the Hammer. I'll give you some clues. Was a Ram, played at Louisville.
Oh, I know.
Tutu Atwell?
Yeah, there you go, buddy. Very good. I'm intrigued to see what'll happen there. And there's a player that's free. Old Tutu's free.
The Miami players in the Big Gorilla right now are just it's outside of Achane, it's so confounding.
Yeah.
So if you look at just Dolphins, which you can sort by team on Fantasy Mojo, if you look at the Dolphins, Achane goes at the 203 as running back 7. You have to go another 13 rounds to have a second Miami Dolphin selected. And it's not even Malik Willis. It's Chris Bell, the rookie from Louisville, who may or may not be playing, the majority of the season. I don't even know. He goes, then it's Willis, Dulcich, Jalen Wright, Malik Washington, Ollie Gordon, Caleb Douglas, those guys from Chris Bell on down to Caleb Douglas, round 15 to round 19 picks. And Achane is a second-round pick. Dan, I've never seen anything like that. At least I don't remember seeing anything like that.
I am intrigued by their rookie wide receivers. I thought Coleman out of Missouri and Douglas out of Texas Tech. I do think they're very talented, very shifty type receivers. And I think they could surprise some people. In college, I was impressed with the way they were able to separate. So I'm hoping that translates to the NFL. And I was, remember 2 years ago when you guys asked me for a sleeper wide receiver in the rookie class, I mentioned Malik Washington. So I'm hoping maybe this year he breaks out even more than just being a kind of like a gadget player like he has been the first couple of years.
As fantasy analysts, we're never wrong. We're just early. Right. That's how it is. Dan Flamholtz joined us tonight. Dan, this was a pleasure to have you back on. Loved hearing you tell that story of how, you sweated out those two primetime games on Sunday and Monday to win the KFFSC main event. Already got 24 titles to your name in the FFPC. I'm sure many more after this year as well. We will see you on this show prior to seeing you in person in Kentucky coming up in August, but we'll definitely have you back on the couple of days before we all get together and draft a bunch of teams there. Until then, I'll probably see you in the draft rooms in the FFPC. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, dude. Really appreciate it. And congratulations on all the success you've already had.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk fantasy football with you guys, and look forward to the next time. Thank you very much.
You got
August can't come soon enough, Dan.
That's right. That's the hammer, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Flamholtz, the KFFSC defending main event champion, and of course the 24-time FFPC winner, joining us on the show tonight. Ferrell, I think we set a record for quarterback talk, back-to-back episodes tonight.
Well, and we should sometimes, because it's. I think it's automatic pilot for some of the drafters because they have their guy. Goff is my guy because I just love starting him when he's in Detroit. And, in listening to some of our guests, I'm getting a little more appreciation for Lawrence. I'm getting begrudging appreciation for Indiana Jones. And, these are some things that without the show, I probably would not have caught on. I certainly did not have as glowing understanding of Malik Willis as you guys do.
The other part of strategy that this brings in when we talk all these quarterbacks, this is really important to the Superflex Best Ball Tournament drafters with the FFPC too, because then it's not just, I'll just pick any of them. Now you got to really get honed in on the quarterback position in that if you want to turn $35 into $100,000. You can turn your entry fees into some serious cash with the KFFSC. KFFSC.com is where to go. The Sweet 16 Best Ball Championship, the KFFSC main events, auctions, big paybacks, draft masters, play-ins, all filling right now. KFFSC.com. That is where to go, right, Ferrell?
That is where to go, Balky. And under the Sweet 16 Best Ball Championship, the final two divisions were posted tonight. So you may go over there and join those as well. And, because you lead the pack, sir. You really do.
Yeah, we just started the Daryl LaMonica division a couple of days ago. I'm looking it up right now. So we got the Jim Plunkett and George Blanda, right?
Yes, sir. Two more quarterbacks. We can keep that quarterback conversation coming. And our beloved champion, one of our great Kentucky players, the Fozzie Dog, Jeremy Brock, is the defending champion in that league, and we'll have to usher him into those two divisions as well.
Yeah, we will have to do that for sure. That will not be a problem. Fozzie is he drafts as much as he. Well, whatever. We'll just say that. He's an awesome dude. Ferrell, KFFSC.com is where to go. I will talk with you again on Wednesday. Thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
That is Ferrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank him. I want to thank Dan Flamholtz, the FFPC, Rob Bryson, of course, each and every one of you. HSFF Hour is back this coming Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Before that, on Tuesday, we will have the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the June edition, will hit your podcast feeds. John Terry, the multi-time FFPC league champ, will join me for an hour on Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Then you get this show Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Thursday night, next Thursday, we will have FFPC Insider Access. That is going to be a fun show. In case you missed it last night, Ryan Goodman from Rotoballer and I chopped it up for 2 hours. Always a fun time with him. And then next Thursday, we will have, I think we might have live best ball tournament coverage. Not going to confirm that yet, but I feel pretty good about having live best ball tournament coverage on the FFPC Insider Access show next week. Then Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, a week from today, we will have 18-time FFPC League Champion Jared Hines joining Ferrell and I for extra reps. That's going to be a lot of fun on Friday, and that's your jam-packed podcast schedule for the FFPC next week. Don't forget, you can win $1 million in the Big Gorilla this weekend. The early Rampage tournament is filling up 40-some leagues, I think, left in that. So you can be eligible for that $10,000 grand prize. And the 7 Bananas promo, we keep giving free teams away. Maybe you could win those free teams when you get that 7 pick multiple times in a row. Baby Gorilla, $100,000 grand prize. Don't forget, same rules and format as the Big Gorilla, $125 entry fee for that. Best Ball Tournament is now a $400,000 grand prize instead of $300K, which it was last year. The Superflex Best Ball Tournament, $35 to enter a $100K grand prize. Dynasty and Empire startups going off, $100 and $5,000. Anywhere in between there, you can play fantasy football year round. The FFPC Chop League start at $35. A lot of fun there. Just don't finish in last and you will win your league. Last place in scoring from a weekly standpoint and you'll win your league. And then the main event, a couple of days left to get involved in the early bird, May 31st at midnight Pacific time. That is when the early bird flies away. Get in before then. You'll get $200 off your first team, $600 off each additional team, and you'll be entered into the Pros versus Joes drawing, where you can be, if you're selected, you'll compete against 42 other industry pros for 7 free 2027 FFPC main event teams. It's all at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share with your friends, share with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which the next time will be Tuesday, 10 p.m. RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown with John Terry and myself. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. For Dan Flamholtz, for Ferrell Elliott, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been HSFF Hour Extra Reps. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Just to let everybody know, too, we'll have Big Gorilla drafting resuming. Well, actually, you can get into the midnight one tonight. But we'll have Big Gorilla drafting resuming this weekend starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. We filled a bunch of drafts this past weekend, and the early Rampage tournament is going to be gone before you know it. So make sure you're getting in on that. 2 tournaments for 1 entry fee. Draft all day long, Saturday and Sunday with the FFPC. And all those other formats I mentioned, no problems with those filling as well. So if you want to draft, that is the place to come, myffpc.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be good. Talk with you on Tuesday night.